There we go. This cycle, the 7 of you come down into what is essentially a completely uninhabited world. Most of this world is under a huge ocean, maybe 5% of it or so is landmass. Turn that up a bit. And you're not really sure what the deal is after your flyover reconnaissance, whether civilizations used to exist here and then collapsed and drowned, or if they never existed at all. But in a rare stroke of luck, when Apotheosis falls, it falls just a day's hike inland on a small island, and the three of you and Yorith find it and recover it within a day or so, and with little issue. And so the 7 of you, having recovered the light of creation so early, now have a year in this nice tropical world, and at Drew's behest, you all decide to kind of take a break and have a vacation year. And so you all work together and you build this large, comfortable shelter on a pleasant beach, right next to, a ways away, a few hundred feet away from where the Hermian Shoes is docked. And you spend a relative peaceful year together, just sort of like fishing and cooking and for hanging out with each other and just genuinely enjoying a break from this otherwise difficult journey. So with that in mind, how are you guys spending your time here?
I guess just studying whatever animal life I can find. Shut up.
It's pretty standard fare, the kind of stuff you would expect. Every time you do kind of prepare to go out and study, though, you do get kind of a side eye from Drew, who really wants everybody to kind of just relax and not work so much this time, just to kind of recoup from some of the, spending like a year in the dark, essentially, in the last cycle, where there was almost no sunlight. But you do find, that there are various crabs and that there's gulls and other species around that are similar enough to the styles you'd be used to. Basically, when you have an environment, the creatures of that environment evolve to survive in it, right? Well, if the environment isn't that different, meaning you've got a sandy beach and water that's pouring on it, then you're going to have creatures that evolve in a similar structure. Even if they're coming from a different route, they may end up looking and functioning in a much similar way to the ones that you're already aware of, just because the environment isn't that different. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you do find, of course, various creatures that are relatively similar to what you'd expect. All the while, anytime that you find anything interesting like that, you notice that Yorith is kind of nearby and jotting down pictures of it in her book. And kind of making anatomical drawings of these creatures and so on. But basically, that's what you guys, as far as what you find, are pretty standard fare: seashells or clams and mussels and starfish and things like that. How about Ketis and Peter?
I will just mess around with my alchemy to see what I can do with anything that I've collected from previous places, any plant life, or anything I can collect from here.
Sure. It's been a year, a little over a year since the last one. It was a year and a half, I guess, before when you were on the mushroom world, where you were experimenting with those. There just wasn't plant life to be had on the world you just came from, so you do, kind of feel a little better being surrounded by kind of lush vegetation. And you've spent some time studying the properties here. Go ahead and make a nature check.
All right.
We'll come back to that, but you do spend some time kind of taking down some plants and things like that. Just I would say you probably even started this when you guys were building this little shelter, this house that you guys have made. Something akin to bamboo, essentially. That as you were breaking it down, you're kind of paying attention to the properties of it, because you're being similarly silently scolded by Captain Drew for working, as he's saying, even though it's not really. You're just it's something you enjoy doing, so it's more of a hobby than anything. Especially since you're not exactly being paid for it. But anyways, you kind of spend some time looking these over and figuring out the chemical structure of these and what that might mean and what they could be potentially used for. But we'll come back to that. Peter, what is Peter doing for your first few days out here?
I'm going to spend a little bit of time researching that crystal, the soul shard or whatever that was, with all the souls.
With the diffusion in it?
Correct. And then the other half of my time kind kind of using my divination to try and find a pattern or some commonalities between all these planets and the situation.
Okay. All right, go ahead and make we'll call it an Arcana check for studying the crystal. The first few days here, you haven't had a lot of time with this thing yet, of course, because, the getting here, looking around, trying to find the apotheosis and everything, and then retrieving it did take up the first week or so. So you haven't had much time to really look at it, and when you finally got to it, it looks to be inert now. You're looking at it, and you never saw faces or anything in it, but you did see the glow. Kita saw faces in it. And the glow, of course. But the glow has dimmed quite a bit. It doesn't seem to be as vibrant as it was, and maybe that's just your perception. Maybe it's just because you're now in bright light again. You're in a world with a sun, whereas the world that you came from, the Detusions, was so dark that, maybe it was just perception. Maybe it's just that. That it was such a dark world, and your eyes had been so accustomed for a year before you saw this crystal of being in basically utter darkness almost the entire time, that maybe that's why it just appears dim here again, is that there's kind of surrounding ambient light here. But it appears, and you're not 100% sure, but it does appear a little bit dimmer. The glow maybe is a little bit not as vibrant as it had been. But other than that, it doesn't seem to have changed much. As far as researching it further, it's something you'll need to spend a little more time doing. Divination, you're specifically trying to divine what the connection might be between these worlds?
Yeah. Essentially the pattern that we're going through. What's the common denominator here?
Okay. Go ahead, do your roll the bones. Go ahead and roll your 3d20s. And you can pop those in there. You're in your daily ritual, in your morning ritual of kind of going over these. You throw them out and the little wood carvings and everything, and study them. You aren't seeing any connective tissue between them. It's something that you almost feel when you go from one to the next, that everything is resetting so much that it's kind of going back to square one each time. And you don't exactly, that doesn't make full sense in your head just yet, but you're realizing that it's not traveling from one to the next while you're being chased the whole time. It feels like there's something else happening, and you just haven't been able to kind of piece together what that might be yet. But it's something, if you keep thinking on, you might be able to kind of, in more time. This is the 10th year now that you guys have been doing this. So you've had, a decade of this now, but as time goes by, you might be able to kind of begin to piece more and more of it together, which you have more data to be able to study, as that kind of comes along. So, but it's coming to the end basically of this day. You guys have kind of put together your shelter and got your little sleeping areas and everything. And anything else you guys wanted to do for the first free day that you guys have had here?
I don't think so.
I don't think I'm good.
Okay. Wait till Ben's back. Is Ben working?
No, I don't think he
you hear me?
realizes that he's muted.
Oh, you're muted, G. Yeah.
Okay, then I must have hit the wrong button. Yeah, I'm just gonna actually relax for once, like Drew said.
Okay. All right. Well, then you guys have been here now a total of 4 weeks, and this is basically the end of your first day of, like, after everything has been done. You got their whole place built, everything is kind of set up, and you're going to spend some time relaxing. It's evening. Your kind of vacation time here is not well deserved, of course, and you're kind of making the most of it. You guys spend a relaxing evening drinking on the beach, all 7 of you, and you've each kind of retired to your respective sleeping areas in this beachfront home that you guys have built for yourselves. There's a pale blue moon that's filling the sky, offering plenty of light through the bamboo-like reed windows. There's calming sounds of the waves and the native insects that send each of you off to a peaceful rest, until a knock at the door wakes everybody in a start. And it's an intentional knock. It's not the kind of thing that like one of those strange crabs of this world that could have made it, by bumping into the door. This planet's uninhabited by any known intelligent species that you've seen. And then again, in the silence here, you hear that again. And this time it's followed by a young girl's voice. and it says, hello? Can I come in? It's cold and I'm scared.
So we
Alright.
let her in.
Yeah.
I'm picking up my sword and shield first, though, just in case. I don't know if it's actually a little girl. I don't trust it. Even if it is, I don't trust it.
So you guys head down to the door. Yorith is there with you. Elizabeth is kind of got her blanket pulled up and wrapped around herself. You head up to the door and you open it, and sure enough, there's a little 9 or 10-year-old girl at the door. Just really young, looks very scared. Blonde, blue eyes, human girl. She says, "Can I come in? It's cold out here."
Sure.
Alright.
Yep.
Just keep your hands to yourself.
Don't steal
Trust
all
you.
of our beach goods.
Don't touch our damn towels and our beach balls, damn it.
And our seashells.
And our seashells. No, he's talking to you. Quiet.
So she comes in and she says, Where did you guys come from?" She steps in, you guys close the door behind her. Don't all speak at once. Just this awkward girl just sitting there. They didn't tell her space.
Say, we were just thinking the same thing about you. Where'd you come from? We're on an island.
She says, I don't really know. I mean, I was camping with my family, but then he pushed me into the fire, and then I came here.
Who pushed you into a fire?
I don't know, the man.
Is he still here?
No, this isn't my home. I'm not from here either.
Well, neither are we, so we have something in common.
Well, where are you from?
Bleecker Street?
Do you know what town?
Yeah, what city do you live in?
I don't know.
Oh boy.
Well, clearly you're not from around here, neither are we. So, we can try and figure this out together, I guess.
Offer something to eat and drink, maybe.
She, as soon as you kind of say that, or even gesture towards any kind of food or whatever, she looks ravenous. She looks like she's been starving, and very politely, of course, but rushes over towards where you have food from the night's meal, and grabs that and is just downing water, and just is ravenously eating up what food you had there.
Okay, that's fine. Let's go forward.
Oh, by the way, I think I may have mentioned this in the first session. Your guys' food stores, you guys had enough in the ship, of course, to survive for a few months' trip on, with emergency foods and stuff on that. So basically, as long as you find some kind of food on the, a small amount even, on the planets, then you're fine. And even if not, you can ration the amount of food you had out to last the year. And that resets every year anyways, because the ship resets when you go through. So food hasn't been an issue for you.
Okay. So I was going to say, I'm sure I could probably figure out at least some edible fruits and vegetables.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, you get tired of eating the food off of the ship anyways, so you do try to find whatever local fare there is that isn't poisonous, but that's essentially how you guys are eating throughout this time.
Okay. Yes, that's fine. Kate can have as much as she wants.
I'm gonna keep an eye on her, see if she changes after she eats.
It's just one of the was it Gremlins? That's Gremlins, isn't it?
Is it past midnight?
Yeah. Can't give them food or water past midnight.
Yeah. Alright, well shit.
Yorith goes over and sits next to her though, and kind of puts her arm around her shoulder, and she asks her, if she remembers anything else from where she came from, and she says, well, I mean, we were just, I don't know, I mean, we were camping, and mommy and daddy were in their tent, and then he pushed me, and when I fell in the fire, and then I came here. I don't know. She just looks scared, obviously, but doesn't really seem to have enough details to really give you guys that much information about where she came from.
What's your name?
Alice.
Okay, Alice. I'm Ketis. Nice to meet you.
She reaches up and very politely shakes your hand.
Shake it back.
She has a Wonder Woman backpack that she sets down.
All right.
Not that you guys
I'm
know who
assuming
Wonder Woman, of course, is.
I was gonna say. I'll say that's an interesting looking lady on your backpack there.
Yeah, it's bright red, bright yellow, or bright red, bright blue with like gold and everything in it with big W's.
Nice.
I'll introduce myself as well and introduce Toki, and I guess let her know that we'll do our best to kind of figure out what's going on together, because we're kind of all in the same boat a little bit.
Her eyes go wide and is like the biggest smile you could possibly imagine when she sees Toki, and she yells "Kitty" and goes rushing after him and picks him up and just hugs and hugs and hugs. You know, you get the impression, of course, that she hasn't had a lot of comfort since showing up here. She hasn't been able to tell you guys how long it's been, but you do piece together that it's been at least a few days because she's been starving, and you know, hasn't had much in the way of food. She's very dirty. And you know, water has been hard to come by. She's been drinking water off of the kind of humid leavings on the leaves, like the water that'll collect on leaves in a humid kind of a place. So she hasn't had much basically, but you know, seems to be relaxing and calming down now that she's kind of in this place with you guys who appear to be nice and aren't you know, hurting her or anything.
All right.
She asks, "Can I stay here tonight? It's cold out there."
Yeah, that's fine. Sure, we can find a place for you.
I won't take up very much space. I can just sleep right over here. And she, like, there's like a corner, and she's like kind of, you know, already moving towards that, like she could just lay down in the corner and sleep.
Well, sure, we can do better than that. She can have my bed.
That's nice of you. If we were using inspiration anymore, I'd give you inspiration for being nice to an imaginary kid.
Imaginary kid. Still don't trust her. Watch those little fucking thievery paws trying to steal shit.
Alright, so you know, the night comes and goes. You know, she rests in your room though. Nothing, you know, doesn't appear to be trying to steal anything or you know, or cause any problems or anything like that. She's just super appreciative and you know, happy to have company. Like, it seems like she's been very alone and very scared since, you know, being pushed into the fire, as she describes it. Oops, that's the wrong one. But morning comes though. It's everybody else, the rest of the crew are just also elated because although this little girl was alone for a few days, you guys have had pretty much each other as company almost exclusively, with, you know, with the exception of some robots and you know, some little mushroom guys and some wolf ape-like creatures, gorilla-like creatures, things like that. You guys haven't really had let's say human contact outside of that for quite some time. So, you know, everybody's just kind of overjoyed and is just playing, for lack of a better word, and, you know, spending as much time with Alice trying to figure out where she's from and everything. She describes where she's from as having cars and that her daddy's truck that they usually ride in, things like that. Stuff that you guys aren't familiar with, but of course Ben and Becky and Sako would know. But that she's from a place that has technology kind of similar to the world that you guys came from. It's just not exactly the same. The same way that technology, by the way, is nothing but a scientific evolution. So, you know, if you have an environment and you need to solve a problem for it, the environment will dictate what technology you developed because you need to solve a problem. Well, those problems are essentially the same in any environment, right? So technology evolves along the same lines, or at least very similar lines. So anyways, she describes all this kind of stuff to you guys as you're, you know, spending time basically relaxing here. Yorith has spent, we're say another week in or so to Alice being in your guys' company. Yorith has felled a tree and has spent some time over the past few days carving it out into this smooth, long board shape. And today she has decided that she's going to take it out there, and you see her rush out into the waves with this board that she's made and hop herself on top of it and try to surf like a badass, carving sweet waves and shredding that foam, and is trying to surf basically out there on the water. You notice Jack is standing on the beach. Make a perception roll, all three of you. Fucking 31. That's insane.
Very perceptive.
What was the? I forget what bonus it was. What's the? You had something that gave you double perception. Was it your staff?
I think it might have been one of my skill things.
Doesn't really matter. I was just curious. It might be prodigy.
So that's not an actual
you got
modifier, right?
No, he's got
an item too.
It's
Yeah.
a feat. Yeah, it's a feat that he took called prodigy.
Double
They gave
proficiency
him
bonus.
double or expertise in whatever skill he chose, and he chose perception.
Nice.
But Peter, you standing on the beach, notice that Jack, while he's kind of standing on the beach, he looks a little bit nervous, and he keeps looking out over the waves. And we'll get back to why he's nervous there in a second. But everybody notices that Elsbeth is kind of running around a little bit to different plants and keeps, and this is something that Kiedis, you probably helped her identify a little bit. She's gathering up like different colored flowers and some shells off of the beach that are a little bit soft, that whatever creature is in these things have a very soft shell. But she keeps gathering up all these different kind of odd materials from the shoreline and nearby plant life. And then you've seen her kind of taking bits of them, and then she'll smash them in her fingers or in a mortar and pestle and kind of, running the color over her fingers to see what it looks like, what kind of pigment they're creating. Drew, when he's not relaxing on the beach, is kind of spending his time in the engine room, calibrating the Alcubierre drive and trying to figure out how to tie the Tutusian cannons into the ship's power. Basically, he's kind of engineering type stuff while he's making sure that everybody else is resting. But with you guys, kind of the three of you are out kind of near the beach, essentially. Yorith is out in the water. Jack is on the shore, sheepishly staring around, looking a little bit nervous. Everybody's just kind of doing their thing. Specifically for the nervousness, though, for Peter, you notice that Jack keeps looking out at Yorith and then looking away. And then he's looking at the waves. He seems to be nervous about the water. What are you guys doing?
Kind of ask him what's with the water, man. What's bothering you?
He kind of sidles over to you, and you're both facing out towards the waves and not looking at you. He kind of looks down at the water a little bit. He says, I'm kind of surprised this hasn't come up, to be honest, this far, but I can't swim, and I'm a little cautious about that. I haven't really tell people regularly, but and he keeps his eyes keep kind of drifting out to Yorith and then back.
Anything going on with Yorith? What's going on looking at Yorith?
He kind of grins. Make an insight check. Roll that in the tower. It actually doesn't really matter in this case, but the social skills are usually in the tower. Yeah, with that roll. He grins. He's got a crush on her, and it's obvious to you. You can tell that for sure he's got a crush on her. But he says, I don't know. I'm sure you guys kind of have an idea of what's going on, but I'm a little worried because it's one of those things that if if things didn't go well, we're kind of stuck here, and for who knows how long, resetting back and forth like that. So, yeah. I don't know what to do, but would be nice to be able to get out there with her at least anyways. And he keeps, he's looking back to the waves. And when he says that, actually, Alice, who was building a sandcastle, overhears that and stands up, and you see her dusting the sand off of her knees and comes running over. She says, I want to know too. Like, I mean, I know a little bit. I'll help. Like, could you guys just watch so we don't get pulled out into the water? And she starts kind of rushing over towards the water.
Alright, I'm gonna fall over. I'm assuming I see her move, so I'll start making sure.
Yeah, you and Navarro were standing nearby too. Peter just moved over to talk to Jack, but you guys were standing nearby. So you guys gonna teach Alice and Jack how to swim?
Sure.
Yeah.
So you, over the span then of over the next few days, really, so, you know, especially because we're talking, you guys don't really have much else to do, so you guys could be doing this for hours if you chose. You know, at least get Jack to a level of competency, and Alice for her size anyways, to be able to swim decently as well. You guys carefully, of course, you know, spend time near the shore. There's kind of a cove here where you guys have built this, so the waves coming in aren't super strong. It's not enough to be too worried about, you know, being pulled out away from shore or anything. But go ahead and make intelligence rolls, I'd say, all three of you. I thought I saw a purple, but I didn't see the... There we go. Yeah, so you guys, you get both of them pretty comfortable in the water. Jack still seems a little bit nervous, but by the end of the week, you know, he's out there on a similarly smoothed out board, trying to... He's more paddling along than surfing, but he's trying to kind of be out on the waves, at least next to Yorth, while they're just out there having fun. You guys, not much is happening on this world. There isn't much else to do, but you notice that Elsbeth throughout this time is spending a lot. She'll come out and you know, grab different things. Like she'll kind of comes back to the same style of planting, getting more and more of certain plants, and then going back to the ship. And she's spending most of her time on the ship, where she's obviously doing something, of course, with the materials that she's gathering from here. But other than that, Drew, over time, does manage to get the cannons attached to the deck, and manage to figure out how those can be tied into the ship's power, so that they will be presumably functional, although testing would be difficult, because he's afraid that if he fires it off, you know, that it could damage the ship potentially. So he's being very cautious about it, and he says that he wants to wait and fire it off, presumably just before you guys leave this world, because if it damages the ship, as long as you guys can limp through the barrier to make it through here, then hopefully the ship would reset itself. As opposed to, you know, you guys tested down here on the planet, and then it damages the ship, and then you can't make it through the barrier, and you guys would all be screwed. So you guys doing it?
Idea.
Yeah, he wants to kind of hold off there, you know, and then have everybody together, just so that it's as safe as possible. Yorith does approach the three of you guys, though, and she says, "Hey, so just when the three of you are separated, Alice is over playing with Drew, actually, in the sand at this point, and she asks you guys, hey, so, I mean, I was talking with Elsbeth already, and I don't know, I mean, we have to take her with us, right? I mean, what else can we do? What do you guys think?"
Can't really leave her here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nobody else saying. I don't think she's gonna mind.
Yeah, just see what she could do for us on the ship. Maybe she could help us out somehow and bring her with us.
Yeah, give her some jobs on the ship, keep her busy.
Yeah, she kind of she looks over towards where they're playing, where Drew and she are playing in the sand. She says, "Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't really have much choice. We're gonna have to bring her along, but Jesus, I mean, this is a." She didn't say Jesus, of course, but it's you know, this is a pretty dangerous trip to be on. Yeah, well, yeah, we don't really have much other choice. You still, in all this time, it's been, we're coming up near the end of the year by now, actually, and you haven't been able to get almost anything really in the way of details out of her. Maybe whatever memories she has from, you know, before that are a little bit foggy, a little bit hard for her to piece together. But I mean, the details she's given you sound clear. There just aren't a lot of them, because she was a kid. She doesn't really necessarily pay attention to what town she's from or what the name of the planet is. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. But basically, you guys, amongst the crew, anyways, have decided to go ahead and bring her along, not really knowing what else to do. What do you guys have you guys done anything else with the remainder of the year on this place?
Well, I was going to say I wanted to get those cannons mounted, but Drew took care of that already. So.
Yeah, I would say that he probably did that with all of your guys' help as well. Peter and Yorith working in the engine room for the power, for the arcano-mechanical connections. Nivara maybe in gorilla shape or something like that to help getting the thing mounted because they're so heavy, that kind of stuff. But yeah, you guys got them all, all or at least connected and appearing to be functional. Who knows? We'll make a couple of die rolls once they actually try to fire them to see what happens.
Is there a way that we can kind of collect a few things locally, whether it's flora, fauna, things like that, and just store them on the ship, just for further research purposes as we keep going through?
Yeah, I would say actually that you guys have already been doing that anyways, at least in as small of a sense as you guys can, in that you couldn't exactly bring you could bring flora, a little harder to bring fauna, only because some of the creatures of course wouldn't fit on the dry earth ship, and you'd end up with way too many on there anyways, let alone trying to feed them and that kind of stuff. But when it comes to what's that?
I just had Noah's Ark.
Yeah, it kind of would end up like that, but I mean, in the sense that you could always bring, the bodies of some, insects, things like that, sure. So, I would say that you guys have kind of a small running collection of what is feasible to bring along with you, and in most cases, kind of the more extraneous of the samples you guys see. So if you go to a planet and they have a plant that looks just like a fern, you may not bother grabbing that because you guys are familiar with ferns, and most planets have some kind of a plant life that resembles that. But when you find different kinds of growth that are much more alien and much more strange in their design, you probably take more samples of that than you would the more standard fare. But yeah, I would say you guys do have a decent collection going of some of the more obscure flora and fauna of the worlds you've gone through. So you guys do anything else for the remainder of the year?
I think I'm good at this point.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Hang out with everybody.
Okay. So you guys, coming out near to the end of your vacation year here on this planet, it's about a month or so before it's time to leave. Elsbeth calls everybody up to the bridge on the Hermian shoes, and she reveals what she's been working on all this time, gathering all of those pigments. And you see a large painting of all of you together. The now 7 of you in your resplendent gray uniforms. Yorith with her arm around Jack, and they're both smiling. Navara, you are in front and kind of cheesing it for this picture. Ketis, you and Drew are standing side by side, and you've got your shirt sleeves rolled up, and you're laughing and flexing. Peter, you're standing behind all of them, holding Alice over your shoulder like a piggyback style. And in the middle of it, with her persistent, cautious smile, is Elsbeth holding her journals. And it's this big kind of mural style painting with Elsbeth in the center of it, and all of you guys kind of around in a relaxing moment, basically, of respite. You guys, during this harrowing journey. You guys remember that picture?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
we
was
s-
in her office, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to say, I know we saw that somewhere.
Yeah. So that picture is what is exactly what's in her office. And you guys, this is the first time you've seen it, but it's also the reason that it looked familiar to when Ketis and Navar saw it originally. You only saw Yorith in the middle, or only saw Elsbeth rather in the middle, and everybody else was blurry. It just looked like it was a blurry painting with just Elsbeth in the center of it. Peter saw it using his third eye and saw all of the images there before. In fact, that was right before you guys kind of went into the Stolen Century here. But anyway, she shows you that. It was just a nice thing she'd been working on this whole time, where she was gathering paintings and stuff to be able to do that. The following morning, you're all out on the shore relaxing again. Yorith is out shredding some bitchin' waves. Jack's kind of paddling along, trying to emulate her. Alice is making sandcastles on the beach with Drew kind of laying out beside her, making sure that she's safe and everything. There are these large crabs on the beach here that can be dangerous. But it's been a nice peaceful time, about a month or so before before it's time to leave. And the sky begins to turn black. And in seconds, it happens almost immediately, but it's not time yet. You guys still have another month before the hunger should arrive, but even before you have time to react, these dead black tar pillars plummet out from the sky, one on either side of your group, shaking the earth violently out from under you, and spilling this viscous black liquid out onto the sand. Jeez, what is it? The difference between 0 and 1 is huge percent, like 0 and 1%, and it's either too loud or silent. Anyway, spilling out this viscous black liquid and begins to form to the shapes of these chaos creatures that you guys have seen consume a half-dozen worlds. These small, vicious-looking quadrupeds with sharp black blades. These ape-like creatures that are roaring and spitting out bits of tar in an unintelligible rage. And these huge mechanical-looking shapes that are wielding various deadly implements. Two of these smaller creatures beeline straight towards Alice, their four-legged frames waddling awkwardly. Yorth screams and sends out a beam of furious light that erupts from her hands. She's out of the wave still. That intersects them, sending a shower of tar that splatters down in the sand with an audible thud. Alice is wide-eyed and terrified, frozen in panic as one of the ape-like creatures begins charging towards her. Drew shouts over the walkie-talkies for everybody to get to the ship now, and he's rushing towards her to try to grab her. What are you guys doing?
Make sure Alice and everybody else gets to the ship.
You guys are 400 feet, 300 feet away from the ship. So Drew's rushing towards her and kind of throws an arm around her and throws her up over his shoulders. He's trying to run, and the ape-like creature is about to connect with them.
Like close enough to hit him with the death knell?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me put them on here for you, actually. Yeah, you weren't far away from them. You guys are probably only 20 feet away from Drew and Alice.
Okay.
All right. There's the ape. And all right, so there's a robotic creature that's off to the left that's heading towards you, and then off to your right is Drew with Alice, and then the ape-like creature that is about to intersect with him.
Okay, so the ape's the one that's right about at him?
Yeah. Go ahead and roll initiative, all three of you.
Okay.
I roll with advantage, right?
Yep. So if you hit the effect on your apparatus, it'll do it for you.
Nice.
Those are good rolls. So all three of you guys are going to get to go first, actually. So it's Ketis' turn. What are you doing?
Okay, then, yeah, I'm going to hit the ape.
Okay. That is a DCF, too, by the way. It was DCF, wasn't it? Diabolical Cave Freaks.
Yep. So I thought.
So you're 20 feet away. You've just kind of thrown yourself up out of the sand and start sending out death knells at him. The first one impacts him in the back and pushes him. Well, I guess if you're going to push him, pushing him away from them. Is that the idea?
Yeah, getting them, moving them away.
Okay, go ahead and roll the damage. It smacks him in the chest, and you notice actually where it hits that the color kind of melds together. That it looks the same shade. Basically, there's this dead black tar with streaks of green or red or blue in it, and the color of your death knell looks the same as it impacts him. But where it hits him in the chest, his feet go spinning out from under him, and it pushes him back into sand, setting up sand in a rooster tail almost. You get 4, I think, now, don't you?
Yeah, should I just roll them all?
Yeah, go ahead and roll 3 more, but roll them one by one so that we can see if they crit or not. As long as they don't crit, then we'll just do them all together.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead. That one hits. And hits. And hits. Alright, so go ahead and roll your damage 3 times. What did you do?
I tripled the dice. It worked like picking up another dice. Does that actually work for you? Or did it get the modifiers and everything?
No, it only did the modifier once, actually.
Ah,
so
okay.
I'll add 10 to it. I'll add the modifier manually. It was a good idea, though.
I was just trying that. I was like, I wonder if that works or not. It did. It tripled the dice. So.
It did. It didn't add the modifiers to all of them. It only had the modifier once, but it was worth a shot. they're where that impacts him. You send all 4 shots kind of all at once. Did you roll damage for the first one too? I don't think you did.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Did you?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did.
Oh, you did. Yeah, it was 8. Okay. All right. But where you kind of keep blasting the same spot, trying to keep him pushed back, the first one just erupts into it, and it just causes this kind of a tar explosion. And the second one hits it again, and then when the third one hits, it actually punches through, and the fourth one just kind of erupts right in the middle of it, basically. But there's a hole through the middle of this, and as you're rushing over towards them, towards the trying to get past this thing towards the ship, that you see the hole begin to close in on itself as it's not healing, but as it's kind of reconstituting the shape in the middle. But it is still angry and moving. You have pushed it back quite a ways. It is far enough away from Alice and Drew, but it is rushing towards you still. You doing anything else, or is that for your turn?
No. I actually I didn't. I even bring my stuff with me. We never even talked about that, so I don't know if I even have my shield or not.
You
I'm
told me
assuming I
you would
wouldn't.
have.
I was on the beach. I don't think I would have.
Yeah,
I mean, the first few months that we were here, I probably would have, and then I probably would have, excuse me, stopped after a while and thought, well, yeah, it's not gonna be dangerous. So,
yeah, in that case, I would say you. I'll take it off. Yeah. I would say you probably didn't, but you can call ruin to yourself at any time.
Okay, which I will. Can I do that as a bonus action? And
yeah.
Then,
yep.
Okay, and then I'll be done.
Right. So you, as you kind of send those out with your left hand, and you summon ruin into your hand with your right, and it just this flare of this dead black energy just appears out of your hand, and then solidifies back into ruin again. Navarro, what are you doing?
Okay, so how far away are the machine and the DCF from each other?
The machine is spilled out of the pillar that is nearby. It's 15 feet from you, and it is moving your direction towards the 3 of you. And the DCF is now pushed back further. So you're 20 feet from Drew and Alice. The DCF is about 60. I think it's actually only supposed to be when it hits for repelling blast. You can do it once per turn, because pushing something back 40 feet in a turn seems pretty overpowered.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later if we need to. But for now, it was pushed back. He pushed the 8 back away from Drew and Alice. But to get to the ship, you need to go past the 8, and there's more creatures coming. They're all over the place. You guys are surrounded all around.
So with a 60-foot radius, could I get it to hit both of them at once, but not hit any of us?
It is 60. No, it's 60 feet from you, and they're opposite directions. There's basically one behind you and one in front of you.
All right. So we'll hit the one in front of me then. Which one is that?
That's the 8, the DCF.
Okay.
What are you gonna do?
Sunburst.
Okay. What level is that?
8.
Ooh, shit. Pulling out the big guns. Sunburst. Jeez. That is crazy. Alright, go ahead and target him and throw your cast. Alright, he succeeds. Your DC is 18, he got a 25. He rolled a 19 plus 6. Alright, hang on. Okay. Where he was pushed back, his head is kind of facing downwards, but all of you are immediately enveloped in this blinding flash of like a sunburst all around all of you. Each creature within that light must make a con save.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to make it so that way it didn't touch any of us.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, so you were starting it way behind him then to not get you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. I was like, okay, well, I thought you were setting this off in the middle, so everybody's going to be blinded by this, but okay. All right, but he succeeds, so he takes half damage, but and is not blinded. Oh, shit, but you know what, though? He's supposed to have disadvantage on that. I won't say why, but he's supposed to have disadvantage on that. So go ahead and hit the cast again to see if he fails the second time. The cast.
I thought I did hit it.
It should be the... Not the... What, did you? Because the first time... Oh, you didn't have him targeted anymore. That's why.
Okay.
There you go. He got a 23. He rolled 17 plus 6, so he'd still beat it. All right, so we'll leave the damage on like it was. but this burst of blinding light burns through him, and you see the shape burning off like smoke, like if it's had rained a little bit and it's hot out. You know how you see steam coming off of the road? It looks a little bit like that, like there's steam coming up off of him, where the sunlight exploded behind him. It still hurt him pretty badly, but he's still up and moving. Any bonus actions?
No, I don't think I have any.
Okay.
Nope.
Did you mark off your spell slot?
No, I'll grab it.
All right. Peter's turn.
All right. The DCF. I'm going to cast a firebolt. Am I in range of him?
He's 60 feet from you.
Okay, that works. I got a range of 120, so I'll cast that to the DCF.
Okay. Missed by 1.
Nice.
Firebolt is it multiple shots, or is it just more damage for levels? Is it just more damage?
It's just more damage.
Yeah, that one missed. Any bonus actions?
No bonus actions. I'm just going to kind of back away a little bit, but position myself so that none of our friendlies are in my line of sight.
Okay. That it for your turn then?
Yeah.
Alright. The DCF is still charging towards Drew and will connect with them. Okay, so he's charging at Drew, and you see him bringing one just tar arm and try to swipe it towards Drew, trying to just smack Drew at the side, basically, because he's much larger. He's 8 feet tall, and hits. The kind of clawed shape of this thing goes just gouging deep into Drew's side, and Drew goes spinning and flailing. Where it impacts him, it kind of takes him up off of his feet, and he's spinning through the air with Alice thrown over his shoulder. Alice's hair is just kind of flailing in the air as it's going through the spinning kind of vertically, until he lands back onto the shore, where the water's coming in, and you see blood kind of pouring out into the water where the tide is beginning to pull away. The DCF then looks towards Ketis, and is going to... It holds its other arm out towards him, and you see a massive tendril of this tar-like material snap out at you. Make a dex save. You need to beat an 18. One too low. You take 18 damage as this pillar of tar just smashes into your chest. You probably would have been able to throw it away with your shield had you had it on you, but without it, you have to have your shield for Shield Master to work. Yeah, so I was going to say you could use your Shield Master, but that won't do you any good here. But that pillar just smashes you into the chest, and you feel like a million needles stabbing into you, almost like when your arm's asleep, except much more painful, of course, like a ton of tattoos, I suppose. It is the machine's turn, coming up behind Peter and Nivara. It is charging towards the two of you. I would say actually he stops when he gets close, though, and you see one long arm swipe out becomes the shape of a long knife, essentially, that he swipes out at you guys with. That misses Nivara and misses Peter. You guys are facing away and kind of beginning to move yourselves towards, running towards the ship, as it swings out towards you and misses the both of you. And then it similarly sends out two tendrils that jump towards each of you. Ketis and Peter, or sorry, Nivara and Peter rather, make dex saves. Need to beat 18s.
Damn.
Not with those. He rolled a 1, a 2, and a 1, so you each take 4 damage. That's fucking awful. There you go. And that's it for its turn. It is Ketis' turn. Now you are, now that you've kind of seen this all occur, looking around, you see that there are tons and tons more of these. The only ones that are close by you right now are these two, but you're being swarmed. Like there's just a mountain of them that are rushing through the kind of jungly beach side here that are coming in your direction.
How many of us are there right now?
Elsbeth is on the ship. Everybody else is out here with you. Jack, Yorth is in the water. Jack's out with her or near her. Drew and Alice are on the shore. Like, they just got knocked into the water. Drew got slashed up pretty bad. And Elsbeth's on the ship. In fact, actually, Elsbeth, in the distance, you see the ship beginning to power up in the distance. And Elsbeth shouts over the Rocky Talk. She says, "I've got pre-flight going now. Drew, get everybody here fast."
Alright.
Can I make a quick yell out to everybody, whoever can hear me?
Yeah, talking is a free action.
Alright, everybody, if possible, get within 10 feet of me. Run right to me as fast as you can.
You guys are all close by anyways. Jack and Yorth are a little bit further out. But Drew is, at least at the moment, not moving. And Alice is, like, still wrapped up next to him.
Alright,
And they're 20 feet from you guys.
Alright, I'm just going to bark that command out to everyone to group up with me as fast as they can.
Okay.
Can I go over and try to get Drew and Alice? Bring
Yeah,
them close?
they're 20 feet from you and 10 feet from the DCF who kind of threw them with that slash. So, I mean, you can rush over to them without getting within his range.
Okay. Then I'll see if I can get Alice up and get them over and keep an eye on the DCF, and if he gets close to me, then if he gets close to us, then I'll hit him. But otherwise, I'm just going to try to drag them within range of Peter. We'll drag Drew and
Okay.
get Alice up and moving.
Alright, so you rush over there and you pick up Alice and throw her over one shoulder and make a strength check for kind of dragging or pulling, help it. I would say that you get Drew up and he's conscious, he's up, he's just really badly injured. So you kind of we'll take your first roll.
hit it twice.
Yeah, your first roll would have been the one we would take anyways. But you kind of stand him up and throw a shoulder over, throw his arm over your shoulders, and try to help him kind of limp along with Alice over your other shoulder, and you're making your way back over towards Alice. Is that it for your turn? Or
Yeah, I'm
Peter,
just gonna try to get them towards Peter unless the DCF gets within range of me. Otherwise, I'm
Okay.
just gonna try to get them over there as quick as I can.
Okay. Navarre's turn. Before you're, as this is happening, basically, as you see Keita's kind of Saving Private Ryan style, trying to pull Drew and Alice along the shoreline. You see, because it's all dark again, like with the sky above and everything. You see Alice firing off from her. You see Yorth firing off from 30 feet out, offshore on her surfboard. Firing off bolts of this blinding white energy towards towards the tree line, trying to push back this wave that are coming towards you. What are you doing?
Alright, so her and Jack are how far away? 30 feet?
They're 30 feet offshore, yeah. They're next to each other now.
Alright, so then... let's see, shit, what do I have? Would my giant eagle be able to carry both of them?
I think we have said so before. Let me Google it real quick. Uh, 300 pounds. Sorry, medium. Yeah, we'll call it. We'll call it 400 pounds is the most you could carry. So the both of them for sure.
Alright, well then I'm gonna turn into my eagle and go grab them.
Okay.
Bring them back as close as we can get to Peter.
Okay. And it's a bonus action for you to wild shape because you're moon. Yeah, there you go. All right, so you bird shape and like one flap of your wings and you're already over above them. time-wise, just for you spending time, it's going to take more than that turn basically, just for that action for them to climb up and everything. But you do fly out over to them, and I would say, because there isn't anything for you to land on, and you can't exactly flap easily while they're trying to climb on you, I would say make a maybe dexterity check as you're trying to flap your wings without getting them into the water and still be low enough for them to climb up on your wings.
On the wild shape one, or?
Yeah, on the wild shape one. So you would change the stats first. So look at the stats for the great eagle, or giant eagle. And what's the strength on it?
Let's see. 16 plus 3.
Okay. So the plus 3 is the modifier. So if you change the dex, that was the dex, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
No, that was strength.
Sorry. What's the dex?
17.
All right. Oh, did you already do it then?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so it's probably just because you've used Giant Eagle before, and I put the stats in for you. You go back to the main page on your wild shape form, and you see the strength, dex, and con there. You never change the last 3 because the last 3 are just your own stats, but you would change the first 3, and that's how you use it. So from your wild shape form, double click on the dex because it's already set to 17.
All right. Save or check?
Check. There you go. Yeah, so you're flapping as hard as you can, and it's hard to manage, the extra weight that's being thrown on and not get your wings into the water. So you're feeling the tips of your feathers hit the water, and just with you being able to hold in place just long enough, you've got Jack up on your shoulders, but Yorith is not there yet, and she's still kind of firing off in the distance, trying to duck out of the way to get under your feathers to keep the onslaught from coming closer. But you have one of them you have Jack up on your shoulders now. Is that it for your turn?
Yeah.
Okay, Peter's turn.
All right, so from where Peter's at, I don't have a map on me here. How close is everyone to Peter, physically?
Ketis is almost, he's 15 feet away with Drew and Alice. Elsbeth, Nivara, and Jack are out in the water.
Okay, if I run towards them 15 feet away, does that put me closer to the water?
Yes, they're coming from the shoreline.
If I were to run between that shoreline and them, would that keep everyone within 10 feet of me?
No. Nivara, Jack, and Yorith are 30 feet out in the water.
Alright. I need everyone close. I'm going to make a run for it as fast as possible towards the shoreline, closest to the furthest people.
Okay.
And along the way, scream at everyone to follow me and cluster up.
Okay. Are you casting it? Because that's all free action stuff except for your movement. So are you going to cast anything or do anything else?
I can't cast anything yet.
Okay. Alright, that it for your turn then?
That's it, yep.
Okay. The DCF then, that is kind of closing in on Alice, Drew, Ketis, and Peter, is going to whip out another of those tendrils out at you. Make a dex save on Ketis and Peter. Need to beat an 18. I gotta make
Can I parry or repulse this, or is this a special?
I think let's look at parry real quick. I think it's only melee attacks, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm assuming it is. I'll look at it, but I'm assuming it probably is. So.
Check it real quick, see if it's just melee attacks.
Okay. Let's see. I don't see parry on here.
Oh, you gave up parry.
I did, didn't I? Never mind. Well, can I repost it then? Let me see. With a melee attack.
It has to miss you.
Yeah.
And it's one hit. And it's a melee attack anyways, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. You gave up parry. You actually did use parry like the most often too. Of the 4 of you that it's kind of sent out these tendrils towards, Ketis, you're the only one that you had Drew and Alice over, trying to support them, and just couldn't get out of the way in time while you're kind of carrying all that extra weight, and this one impacts your chest for 28 damage.
Can I react to that and hit him with a Hellish Rebuke?
Yeah.
Okay. That I can actually do.
You need your hands free, I think, for Hellish Rebuke, don't you? Let's see.
Let me
It is V and S. I would say you set Alice down because she's still fine. She's not injured. But you set her
Okay.
down and throw a hand out towards this to do that. Go ahead.
And was that the DCF hitting us?
Yeah, it's a DCF that just
Me? Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
That's a good hit. Oh, sorry, that was a save. He got a 21, so he beat he rolled a 14 plus 7, so he succeeded. Still does half damage on success.
I think so.
Half as much on success, yeah. So 14 damage to he's looking rough, but he's still, every time that you guys blast holes in him, and this one is kind of like a sharp wedge of flame that goes through a shoulder and the arm, kind of sloughs off to the side, but as soon as it does, he steps on it with his other foot as he's still kind of moving towards you, and where he steps on it, it just reconstitutes back into the body, and you see the arm beginning to regrow right back out again. Still moving towards you. And the machine, similarly, from that distance, it sends out another, as it's kind of rushing towards you, and you're hearing this kind of technological bang, 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 bang sound as it's running along the shore, even though it's not really made of metal, as far as you can tell. And it sends out another wave of these at all four of you. Go ahead and make another dex save, 18. And... Ooh. You're gonna get hit again, G. One on Peter as well. So Peter and Ketis both, and Alice actually. Drew was able to move for 27 damage on each of you. I'll drop those on. Did you mark off your spell slot for Rebuke, G?
Yeah.
Okay. So as you are trying to gather up close together around Peter, the machine comes charging, out towards you guys, and the eruption of these pillars out from him, these tendrils, smack into each of you, and one that was obviously intended to hit Drew yanks his head out of the way just in time, but in so doing, it ends up smashing into Alice instead. And where it hits her, it immediately just pushes her straight to the ground and is forcing her into the sand as she's beginning to sink slowly into the sand just from the pressure of it. And her eyes go slack, and she looks like she's gone unconscious. And her skin begins to kind of turn an ashen gray. That's for that machine's turn. It is Ketis' turn.
All right. Can I pick her up and keep going?
Yeah, she's unconscious. She's going to be making death saves.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, you're already next to Peter. Where are you trying to go?
Oh, actually, if I'm already next to Peter, then I'm fine then. So
what are you doing?
All right, then.
The four of you are clustered together, and then Nivara, Jack, and Yorith are out in the water.
All right, let me see. Is the DCF still in melee range of me, or can I walk out to him without getting too far away from Alice? And
he didn't move much further this time. He just kind of threw all of his tendrils out at you, which was more effective than trying to get close where you could hit him. So he's 10 feet from you.
Okay, then I'll move in, and then after my turn, I'll move back to where I was with Alice and Drew and everybody, and Peter.
Okay.
So.
And it hits. Why are you doing it one-handed?
Oh, I don't have my shield. Never mind.
Yeah, you don't have your shield on you, so you could be using it two-handed if you wanted to.
Okay.
Go ahead and re-roll the damage with the two-handed one.
Okay.
Well, shit. I mean, that was max damage on that. If you get higher, that's fine. Otherwise, we'll go with that damage.
Yeah. Okay.
It was lower. All right. A 13 total damage to him.
Okay.
Let me drop that last one off though. There we go. All right. But you take a swing at this tarish thing, and the arm that had just started to reform, and you carve right through it, and a big like slashing into a jello almost, and it kind of slowly begins to seal up again. Can you swing again?
Yeah. And do I get 2 or 3? I can't
You
remember.
get 3.
3. Okay.
You tried to swing back at this one again, but it had kind of recoiled away from the initial slash, and the blade goes wide, so you missed on this shot.
Okay. And then I'll use my action surge since I don't know if that hit.
Okay, that one did actually. So you kind of bring it down in a wide arc, and try to slash it across the chest. And yep, that hits. Go ahead. He's looking pretty rough, so if you're going to action surge, you get 3 more.
Yeah, I'm going to.
All right. Go ahead and make. Go ahead and swing the 2 more. That one hits.
Okay.
Just barely. All right. I was going to say go ahead and roll all the attacks, but that's fine. Go ahead. Roll the last 2 attacks now. Just roll one and then the other in case they crit. All right. That hits. And then roll the last attack.
Ah.
There you go. All right. Go ahead and roll the damage. You'll need to roll it twice, of course, because one of them's going to be the crit.
That was that.
Oh, well. So you... the crit part will take care of it anyways, but you...
Yeah, okay.
He's already toast. The critical effect you got is your target's movement is 0 until the end of its turn. I was going to say that you hack, the leg, and then it kind of collapses to its side, but it's the creature collapses forward anyways and is no longer moving. You see the tar begin to settle out, and then moves out towards the water and begins to kind of reform in the water a bit, and is moving out towards Nivara and Yorith and Jack. That if your turn?
Yeah, because I'm assuming action surge must have been a bonus, right?
Action surge is just an ability you can use. It is.
Okay. Then
it doesn't. Yeah. It does,
Stratos.
Yeah.
Oops.
Okay, Navarro's turn. What are you doing? Jack's on. Yorith was still blasting out at the other ones that are coming on.
Alright, is it gonna take an action to get her on me?
I would say depending on your dex roll, it will or not.
Alright.
Make another dex check on your bird form.
Oop, wrong one. Damn.
She does climb up, but you're having to spend all of your effort to keep her, for her to keep from dipping into the water. But she does make her way on, so that is your action to do that. But you do now have Jack and Yorith both up on your wings. What are you doing?
Alright, well then I'm gonna start flying towards Peter then.
Okay. They're only 30 feet away, and I think your flying speed is like 40 or 60 or something. So one beat of your wings, and you're hovering above Peter. Peter, your turn. What are you doing?
GTFO. Make sure everyone is within 10 feet of me now, and cast level 7 teleport on all of us, and teleport us to the bridge of the ship to get us out of here.
Okay. You there, G?
Oh, I was just saying that.
Oh, okay. All right. You said 7?
Level 7, yeah. I can carry up to 8 people, so I think we're good.
And it is instantaneous too. 10-foot cube, so even with the bird in the air, that's good. Because of the, let's say, chaotic nature of what's happening right now, make a it's going to be a concentration check. I'll tell you can either use Constitution or Intelligence for this roll. Just for how... Basically, there's a table called Teleport Mishap, and depending on this roll, we might roll on the table as well. Oh, never mind. This is the table. Okay. Do me a favor. Do you see on your sheet for teleport? Do you see the Teleport Mishap table?
Let me look at it real quick. Hold on. Teleport, no.
You don't see? Okay. So I'm going to let you roll on this table. I'm going to share it to you real quick. I think I can share it to you. Alright, did a window pop up for you?
Yeah.
Okay. So you see at the top left of that is a button that says roll. You see that?
Yep.
Click that. You got an 86. Okay. So you just as fast as you possibly can, you throw out this arcane sigil onto the sand below you of this blue runic circle, and it snaps up around you, and just is exactly as prescribed, you appear on the deck of the ship. That teleport mishap, by the way, if you get the mishap, any of the sections that say mishap, you end up somewhere else. Like you end up, going to the wrong place, but you roll really high, so you're fine. I think the last 25% is an automatic success or whatever, so you got an 86 out of 100, so good job. But you all appear on the deck of the ship. As soon as you are there, Drew is still seriously wounded. Alice is unconscious. Elsbeth is on the deck and is trying to get the ship moving, but doesn't know what to do. Nobody knows how to pilot this except for Drew. What are you guys doing?
Alright.
You can look out the windows and see that the swarm of these creatures are still coming from all directions, and they're beginning to kind of amass themselves just below the ship. And instead of looking like individual creatures, it looks like they're piling themselves into one of those behemoths that you guys saw. One of these things.
Okay, well, first off, I'm going to get out of my eagle form.
Oh yeah, that might help. Try to flap your wings and your giant eagle on the deck.
Yeah, and then I'm going to use heal on Drew.
Yeah, heal Drew, and also if I can do a medicine check and get Alice conscious.
Okay. Go ahead and roll your medicine check, and Navarre, go ahead and roll your heal.
Just click
Hit the
because
cast
it
button.
automatically brings him up to 70.
Oh, heal. Okay. Like full on heal.
Level 6. Yeah.
You guys, this isn't fun if you have all these big guns. I don't get to... Up to 70? That's insane. All right. Yeah, so you throw that at him, and you see the wounds, stop bleeding, and he's like, able to kind of snap or close his eyes, blink his eyes a few times, and you're seeing the kind of skin tone begin to turn to normal, where he's not losing as much blood now. And looks like he's okay. He stands up, and you see the kind of take charge moment in his face, and he's like, okay, Yorith over here, man those cannons, we might need them. And Jack over here, and he's kind of barking out orders. And he sends both Jack and Yorith out to the deck to those cannons. Pardon me. One on each of them, because they have to be fired manually. And Elsbeth is helping because somebody else has to run it from the inside, and usually that's Yorith. But anyways, she's helping him, and he's running up to the bridge to the controls of the bridge to get the ship moving. He looks over, he sees Alice. He says, take care of her, Ketis. Don't she went a long way. We can't have her getting hurt. 25. Yeah. You are able to stabilize her. That's what that medicine check would be. Shit, I actually forgot. Okay, hang on. I gotta roll some things real quick because I forgot that she was making death saves. Whoops. One fail, one success. One fail. Yeah, alright. So, you do successfully stabilize her. She had 2 failures and 2 successes, and then got the 3rd success. Anyway, you do successfully stabilize her, though, and she's breathing. Doesn't look like she's worsening at all. Her eyes are still closed. She's still unconscious. But you do have her, looks like she's going to be okay, as long as you guys get out of here.
I was going to say, can I give her some stride outs real quick?
Yeah, go ahead and pour that out. She's only... Yeah, she's at 0. Okay, that's fine. That'll snap her awake then. You bring it up to her lips and pour it down. She's kind of choked on it a little bit, like somebody that's just had a not CPR. What is it when? Is it CPR when somebody's drowning? They spit up water. Anyways, that thing.
Yeah.
But she kind of coughs it up a little bit, but her eyes snap open. She looks just utterly terrified, and she kind of reaches out, like trying to get you to hug her, just so that she's not by herself. You can pick her up off of the floor. But Drew's starting to move the ship up, and below you guys, you see that the tar has begun to form one of those giant behemoths that is reaching up towards the ship, and you see that the tendrils beginning to spin out towards it. Jack and Yorith on the deck spin the cannons around just in time that Drew tries to rotate the ship so they can get a shot fired off. And they spin around, and the deck tilts off so much to one side that you guys have to lean over to the side to keep yourselves from falling over. And Jack takes the shot, firing one of the cannons towards the behemoth below. And it tears through the face of this thing, this kind of octopus almost looking face, with these swirling tendrils that they were reaching out towards you. Tears through it, just a gargantuan hole, probably a hole the size of the house that you guys had built on the beach below. And as it does, it snakes out another tendril that flashes out towards the deck. and the tendril goes through Jack, and then passes through Jack and ends up pushing into Yorith. Yorith grabs the side of the ship as she's thrown off of it, but over the side, but holds onto the side of the ship and is pulling herself back up. She made her deck safe, so she's pulling herself back up the side of the ship and screams out to Jack and tries to hurry him through, but Jack went straight through him. He's destroyed as this tendril has kind of just obliterated him. And she, as you guys are kind of sailing through this, she's screaming out towards Jack, and Drew goes sailing up through the jelly barrier, and then time stops. And as you guys have done this so many times now before, God, the difference between 1% and 0% should not be that dramatic. Like, that's 1% right now, and 0, of course, is just silence. You'd think there would be a little bit of space between there. Anyways,
is that 100 bar percent?
Yeah, it's to 100. Yeah, it's 1
that
to
would
100.
Get loud.
Yeah,
Jeez, that would be fucking loud.
like it's the end of the song, but right, so this is, sorry, I know that's loud. That's probably 15%,
Ugh.
and that's 0, and this is 1. That's how loud that goes.
Well,
Yeah. Anyway, so, but the hunger is pursuing you. All the clouds around you, trying to come around the ship. The behemoth below you that is sending up all these black tar snakes out towards you. But Drew definitely avoids them and brings you through that jelly barrier, and time stops. And each of you are pulled out into these just myriad strings of these white threads in all directions. And your bodies are kind of slowly moved back to their familiar positions, those that they were in when you first left your own world. And you look over and see, because this has happened 10 times before, you look over and see the shape of where Jack usually reforms, and those threads are coming right back around and forming Jack again. And as time begins to resume again, you're all standing back on the deck where you had been previously. And we'll go. We'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
But let's go ahead and take a quick break, like 5 minutes.
Okay. Cool. What, baby? Mm-hmm.
mind game. And now it's time to beat the mind game. And now it's time to beat the mind game. And now it's time to beat the mind game. It's time to beat the mind game. And now it's time to beat the mind game. And now it's time to beat the mind game. And now it's time to beat the mind game. To beat the mind game. And now it's time to beat the mind game. And now it's time to beat the mind game.
Yep. Everybody back?
Yeah.
Taco? Alright, we'll give Taco a minute.
So how does that teleporting going bad thing work? So if each one of those had a chance to fail, the permanent circle, the associated object, everything, all those had a chance to fail. Is that what it is?
No. So it's basically, if it's, this is kind of an optional rule, basically. Anytime you cast it and you're not using the, mechanical environment, meaning if it's a pre-made rune, then it'll pretty much always succeed unless there's something happening that might mess it up, like a narrative thing. But as far as the mechanics of it are concerned, the only time it has a chance to fail is if you're in a fight. or if you're in a chaotic situation that could, interrupt the concentration, basically. So basically, if you're being attacked, if you are, if you were falling, through the air and you tried to cast it, then it could fail. Things like that. And the mishap, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It just means that you don't get to where you intended to go. But it could do something like teleport you underwater, for example, or into the middle of a rock. Like if you teleported halfway inside of a mountain, it would just be instant death, that kind of thing.
So if you rolled like a 1 or something, you'd probably get instant death, right? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Peter would still have been able to prevent it anyways. But the roll on it, for example, between 1 and 5 is, if you get between 1 and 5, you have like let's see, that's 3, 6, 7 of them, so you have a 72% chance of ending up not where you intended it to be. So if you rolled super low, basically the lower you roll, the higher the chance of you end up, not where you intend to be. But he rolled 86 out of 100, so you guys were fine. Alright, Sako, you're back to go. Sako?
Oh, what's up?
Oh, okay, cool. I thought I had heard you. I was pretty sure you were back, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Alright. So, when time... Becky, you're back to you, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, when time resumed on that first year after finding your new companion, Alice, everything was pretty much as expected. The world was relatively bland, but you were able to retrieve Apotheosis and escape. The next cycle, though, after that, you were all taken aback in surprise. Alice had de-aged. Instinctively, you all knew this would happen, of course. You'd seen it happen to yourselves. But it's never been so dramatic, of course, because all of you were already adults. So seeing it happen to her was quite the shock. For you 7 adults, the rest of your bodies kind of snap back to that, or go back to that snapshotted shape. Ketis, your jaw hurts, all that stuff. And it's become kind of second nature to you, but you didn't lose 2.5 inches in height, and your snapshot wasn't of a 10-year-old who had grown to 11 and then back to 10 again. And now with each cycle, she's returning to that snapshot. So you've been going through this process over and over and over again. It's now been 14 years since she joined your crew. This is the 24th cycle of your journey. The world that you find yourselves on this time is a rich one. It's full of dozens of different civilizations and thriving cities and nations. And what's kind of unique about this world is that you've been to a few planets where there are lots of people around and that are vibrant and alive. But the thing that sort of makes this world stand out is that all of these different thriving nations and civilizations, they're all living in harmony and in peace. And there's so much stuff here, there's so much life here, that you have a hard time kind of figuring out where to settle down in this world. And so you wait until you locate Apotheosis, and you follow it to one of what looks like the oldest civilization on this planet. It's a nation called Tesseralia. And here you're greeted warmly in the nation's capital, and you're treated as revered guests. Everybody's very accommodating to you. There's a brief period where some investigative agencies look into your plight as you come here and sort of explain what's going on. And after some time, the governor of this nation attends to you and confirms that yes, they do have Apotheosis. Specifically, it is in the possession of an institution called the Delian Monastery. And it is an institution that, as the governor explains, it is nearly solely responsible for the peace and prosperity that this world benefits from. So about a month into your stay in this world, the 8 of you now, with Alice, are brought to the monastery, where you are received by the abbess, the leader of this monastery. Her name is Oriana. She's sort of the spiritual leader of this monastery. And you're given tea and food and served this spicy, delicious broth. At this point, you guys been traveling for almost a quarter century now, spending each year in a new reality, but none of you have ever tasted anything quite like this before. It's super, super delicious. The abbess explains that this monastery does indeed have the light of creation here and are willing to give it back to you, but she will need one of you at least to prove that you're able to handle the tremendous responsibility of this power before the monastery will part with it. She asks that each of you, or that one of you rather, join the monastery and live as they do, even if only temporarily, so that they may learn about you, the other worlds that you've come from, the Apotheosis itself, and kind of learn about each other, share all this information back and forth as much as can be. They'll tell you everything, about the world here, and they just want to know about the worlds elsewhere. And then they'll turn Apotheosis over to you. The abbess kind of sizes each of you up, and then sets her gaze on Ketis. And she says, you, Ketis, by our analysis, you're the most diplomatic of the group. We would ask that you would join us for a short while so that you may share our knowledge. The rest of you are welcome to stay with us as well, or go as you please. What say you?
Sure. Learn about you guys, you can learn about us.
What was that last part? What'd you say, G?
Oh, I just said, yeah, sure. Learn about us and we'll learn about you.
That only sounds fair.
Brother Ketis.
You're gonna have to shave your head with that stupid look of the bald in the back and then the ring around it.
Yep. Little top knot or something like
that. Jack says, I think I'll stay here too. I'd like to learn the medical controls of this world. What are you guys doing? For Peter and Nivara? You guys can stay here. You can go study elsewhere. Drew and Elsbeth say that they'll be working mostly on the ship, of course, but they do, they'll be occasionally relaxing and kind of seeing the archaeological sites. Yorith is going to spend most of her time going out on multiple treks out into the wild places, what's left of the wild places of this world, studying the animals and so on.
I'm going to socialize with the locals and take a look at their technology and try and learn as much as I can from it.
Okay.
I'll probably join Yorth out there.
Okay. Making a sister's camping trip.
Yep.
Alice finds an orphanage that's near the monastery where she spends most of her time with the kids there. You guys can clearly see, though, the mental cost of being an adult trapped in a constantly resetting body is beginning to take its toll on her. But she always seems to kind of make the best of a bad situation. Think of, you guys have seen Interview with the Vampire. Think of the Kirsten Dunst character.
Mm-hmm.
How she's getting older, but her body isn't aging at all, so she can't really grow up. All right, so you guys for studying in the technology and everything here, it's about as you'd expect. This isn't an technologically advanced civilization. It's a sociologically advanced civilization. Technology-wise, this is about as your world that you came from, Peter. It's about as advanced as it had been 100 years before. Kind of a late industrial revolution, but not to the point of computers or anything of that sort. No airplanes or anything. But the socio and economic structures, though, are extremely advanced and a model to be studied for sure. In fact, actually, I'd say Elsbeth probably studies that quite a bit and is constantly taking records and notes of that. Nivara, the trip out there ends up being largely a bonding experience as well. I mean, not that you don't have plenty of time to bond with Yorith anyways, but spending a lot of time kind of studying different creatures. You notice she's constantly jotting down in this book that she's made with the kind of fruit leather binding, and is kind of constantly taking notes on different creatures that you see out in the wild. But basically, for your guys' time, this is relatively short here. But for Ketis' experience, and you guys will be able to kind of interact as needed too. But for Ketis, the first week you spend much of your time reading books, kind of the history and the culture of this world, and how it became such a thriving planet of thousands of various cultures, and yet without strife or war in the last 100 years or so in the modern age. There's a garden here. Your second weekend, you start kind of spending your time there too. You help it grow. And seeing how this garden flourishes under your care, the Abbess Oriana calls you into her quarters and explains to you that the Delian Monastery, or what they have done. And what she explains to you is that this monastery and the people here who train have created this technique, an arcane ritual that they have taught to different rulers across the entire world for over a century now. And it's allowed all of these different nations to find peace during times of potential turmoil. And this power, she explains, is called parley. And thanks to the training that you've undergone and the way you've sort of proven yourself, they're going to teach you this ability. And this, it takes it takes most of your time here, basically. So for most of the year, this is what you're studying, is how to use parley, how to do it. and you're kind of spending a lot of one-on-one time with the abbess as she's teaching you this ability. We'll come back to that in just a second here, but Nivara and Peter, you guys doing anything else with your time? I mean, Nivara is kind of spending bonding time with Yorith. Peter, are you just, studying? There isn't much technology to be studied. Did you want to do anything else with your time here?
Mainly, I was just going to kind of check out the people and kind of gauge that.
How they're peaceful?
Yeah, it kind of sounds like a Starfleet Academy type situation. Everything seems organized and composed, and I guess it would be more of a social study.
Sure. Make a perception roll, actually. Even with a 2, you get a 17. That's so ridiculous. I would say even with a shit roll, because of that modifier, you very early on pick up that there's more to it than just the social, mutually agreed structure of let's be nice to each other. You hear whisperings of this. And then in a visit with Ketis in the monastery, he's not secluded away. You guys are able to all communicate and everything. He's just during the day doing these studies, and traveling through a market and that kind of thing. You occasionally see small disputes between people that quickly get resolved and never really escalate to anything. And at first it doesn't seem like it's much, but then when you see that happening over and over and over again, it kind of raises enough of a question in your mind that when you get back to the monastery, you approach Ketis and ask him maybe what he's kind of learned and what it is that this monastery does. And Peter, I would say that you're picking up on this as well, that Ketis is learning this arcane ritual, or being taught this arcane ritual called Parlay. And Ketis, Peter through Ketis, but Ketis, what you learn is that this parlay, this ritual, allows you to summon any entity into an extra-dimensional space that you create. And when you're in this space, in this room, you're able to communicate with your visitor and discuss terms of peace and sort of learn about your potential foe, and in this place sort of come to an understanding with them. But in order to do so, it requires an absolute, or an act of absolute humility, because at any time, that visitor, the entity that you called into this place to talk about peace, they can harm you or kill you in that same space, in which would also kill you in the real world, but you have no such option. You can't physically interact, only they can, with them anyways. So you're solely there as an arbiter, as a peacemaker. So you're humbly making a wager of your safety or your life in an effort to cease conflict between you and a rival. And so the different nations have been using this technique for years to meet with their enemies to discuss terms of peace with them in this place where they could be killed at any second. And in humbling themselves like that, they're able to sort of peacefully find an accord, and that's what this has created this world. That's what it's come to. And so you make it to the end of this year, and you're called to the abbess's quarters once again. And when you get there, the rest of the crew is also there together, just kind of waiting for you. And this is sort of your graduation, Ketis. And in order to get the apotheosis, you will need to use the power of Parlay right now to make peace with your rival or someone. What do you do?
Guess I'll have to give it a try.
So you say that, and Elsbeth and Drew and Yorith and Jack all start kind of almost speaking at once. Yorith says, I mean, it's the hunger, Ketis. It has to be. We have an opportunity to learn something about the hunger. We could maybe use, like, if you pull it into this space and talk to it for a while, and just ask it questions. Anything we learn about the hunger is a potential tool we can use to stop it someday. They all see this as an opportunity to talk to the hunger, to find something in there that you could convene, or to converse with rather, in Parlay, and try to find peace, because you haven't been able to outrun it or escape it or kill it. And so maybe this is an option. So this is the request that they're kind of putting on you. What do you do?
Give it a try.
Okay. Keep in mind, I want to make the rules about how this would work clear. You do this, and this power allows you to basically pull in somebody who you want to make peace with in an extra-dimensional space. And in this space, you can talk to them and make peace with them or whatever, but at any moment they could kill you and you can't touch them. That act of humility is sort of the crux of the peacemaking process. So every time you use this, you are kind of rolling the dice, so to speak. No, no pun intended. It is a ritual that I would say you will be able to teach as well. That's kind of the point of this, is to, it's not intended to be kept secret. It's something that you're supposed to teach, meaning that you could teach it to the others as well. So you're kind of preparing for this, though. Jack walks over to you. He says, Ketis, this is really brave of you, and I'm really proud of you, I guess. I just remember any piece of information that you get is something that we can use. Find out what the hunger, find out what it is, where it came from, find out its weaknesses, find out any motivation, why is it doing what it does, find whatever source we can. Anything that we can find out, Ketis, is something we might be able to use to kill it once and for all, or to at least stop it.
Okay.
So there.
Best I can.
In the abbey, in front of the abbess and your crew and some others that had gathered to see the aliens learn how to do this. This is the ritual you've been taught. You basically kneel down on the floor. You pour out salt from this small leather pouch into this six-sided shape on the floor, kind of a circle, but with a circular shape, let's say, with six sides. And then you pull out a small piece of stale bread from the pouch, and you crush it and smash it into crumbs, and then sprinkle it out into the center of this circle. And then you kind of move into a meditative position. Your legs are crossed, palms resting upturned on your knees, eyes closed. Everybody else in the room, you see the circle of salt on the floor begin to glow, and then this thin stream of silvery light that begins to wisp out of Ketis' forehead and into the crumbs at the center of the circle. Ketis' body begins to fade, for lack of a better term, until he resembles kind of a smoky outline more than a physical embodiment. And Ketis, all at once, you are seated at one end of this exquisite dark-stained oak table. There are windows along the wall to your right that look out into a horizon filled with skyscrapers, the kind that your own world were just starting to build before your departure. You estimate you must be 40 floors up in a building that are just like one of those. It's cloudy outside, but bright. It fills the room with this kind of coruscating gray mist. Your eye catches a metal bird-like shape that's slowly making its way across the sky, resembling a primitive version of the Hermian shoes, almost. It's an airplane. Turning your attention to the room itself, you see, sitting in a chair at the other end of the table, with his back to that window, is a man, a human man. And he's got a fairly slim build. He looks to be in his early 50s or so. Salt and pepper hair is extremely well manicured, and his face is smooth. He's wearing a sharp gray suit with a really stylish narrow black tie, and the most expensive pair of shoes you've ever seen. He looks really slick, and most of all, he looks surprised. And he kind of, seeing you, he kind of clears his throat and he tries to speak, but no sound comes out. He just kind of croaks, and he's trying a few times, and he kind of looks exasperated, and then all of a sudden, a pitcher of water appears on the table in front of him, and he pours himself a glass, and he takes a big drink, and he clears his throat again to speak. And your first thought is that he lies in every word. And that is where we're going to end today's session.